Start. Let's see what he has here. Memnite. There's an Ornithopter there. Oh, Chris actually, wow. Chris is main decking Leyline of Sanctities, and he has two of them. Interesting. We have Memnite, Ornithopter, Springleaf, Drumfall, Blinkmoth Nexus. Using Ornithopter, we get to also play Signal Pest. Chris here, turn one, has Island Sleight of Hand. I'm curious what he kept. Did he... What happened there? Wait, did he just... Did he Serum just for Sleight of Hand, it looked like? Pentad Prism on turn two. Christian had a turn two Etch Champion, so that is a good start. Here is a Darksteel Citadel for his turn three. There's also an attack for two there. So Chris is at 18 right now. There's a Vault Scourge, which will take 2 life from Christian. We're going to turn on the Nexus, and we're going to come in here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Chris is at 10 here. The only thing in Christian's deck that the Leyland's going to matter for is Galvanic Blast. This is a City of Brass. Now, of note, if I'm not mistaken, Chris does have in hand Ad Nauseam and Angel's Grace. So at this point, he is... I was going to say he's a mana away, and now he's not. So a second Pentad Prism comes down. I think he just has to avoid dying this turn. But I think he is dead on board, so he's going to have to pull the trigger here on Angel's Grace a little earlier than he'd like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So Chris does need to do something here, as this is a lethal swing. He's going to have to pull out the trigger on the Angel's Grace there, so that's going to bring him down to 1. City of Brass put him to 9, but that's not really a big deal. He picked up a Sleight of Hand here. Let's see what this finds him. If he is able to find Angel's Grace in his top 2, he will survive. He'll win, actually, but I don't believe he did. I believe he found a Simian Spirit Guide and a third Pentad Prism, and sure enough, that's going to be game 1 very quickly over to the Affinity player. So we're going to hopefully look to have a backup match here pretty quickly, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, a very fast start there. That's the kind of start Christian needs to ensure that he is able to kill this deck fast enough. Now, with that being said, if Chris found an Angel's Grace there, he does win. He also actually could have found Phyrexian Unlife. The ley lines here, not important. They only interact with, again, Galvanic Blast out of Christian unless he has other sideboard cards to bring in for it, but I don't think that's necessary. Christian here, I saw, has brought in his Spell Pierces. It also looks like he brought in Wear and Tear. That's okay because he does have to worry, of course, about Phyrexian Unlife, which does ensure that Chris doesn't die to normal damage. It has to go through Infect at that point, which can take a bit of time. That's probably the only... I guess I can hit a Pentad Prism. That seems like a poor use of it. Christian's also brought in Spell Pierces. He brought in Dispel, which does counter Ad Nauseam. Doesn't counter Angel's Grace, obviously, thanks to Split Second. He also brought in that Wear and Tear. It looks like he also brought in Thoughtcasts, just to find ways to dig for that interaction that he's looking for. Typically, Affinity, not a very interactive deck. It's just trying to do its own thing and then kill you. Post board, in this situation, he does want to look at some ways to interact with Chris's plan. Otherwise, there is potential for him to just lose to a very early Ad Nauseam. As early as potentially even turn 4, I think is usually can go for. Turn 3 if he has Simian Spirit Guides, but turn 3 actually if he has his Lotuses. So we'll see here. Chris here going to be on the play again. I feel like it was more of a detriment in game 1 that he had both those ley lines. They just don't matter for this matchup that much. and having 2 was basically a mulligan to 5. Both players here, however, are going to take a mulligan to 6. The fairway, mind you. They're not going to be... Chris isn't going to have to worry about having dead cards in his hand, hopefully. I feel like at this point, he's hedging his bet. I don't know if that's normal for these decks. Leyline seems crazy in main deck, but it's good against green-black X strategies, and it's okay against burn, but he's already favored against burn, I think. Christian here has kept his 6. His scry has gone to the bottom. Chris, however, his 5 is not going to be good enough. He's going to go down to, or his 6 is going to be enough. He's going to go to 5 rather. So we have Chris on an actual mulligan to 5, Christian on a mulligan to 6. We'll see here if Chris is able to keep this. Hopefully he is. Otherwise, we could be in for a very, very fast round 1 here. Again, going to look to have a match to fall back to for a potential second match here, but he's got a Lotus, he's got a land. He's going to keep. He already has the ad nauseum, which is important. He just now needs to find an Angel's Grace. Temple of Deceit gives him a scry, but he already knows what it is, so he'll leave it on top again, of course. There is a Lotus Bloom, so in 3 turns, that will be a Black Lotus. Christian here, Blinkmoth Nexus, Mox Opal, Vault Scourge, paying 2 life, and that's probably going to be his turn. Yes, it is. The Opal is not active just yet. Lotus down to 2. He's scried to the top. I think he scried to the top in Angel's Grace. So he has the combo in his hand. He just needs the mana now. If he finds any land, that'll give him access to a Pentad Prism for 2. And that would be enough. This is an attack here for 1, 2, 3, 4. So Chris will fall to 16. Christian will go to 22 thanks to the plating. Wow, and he found the land at Darkslick Shores was great. That'll give him a Pentad Prism for 2. He missed his Lotus trigger, though. Oh, wow, that's backbreaking. He missed a Lotus trigger. He could have gone for it next turn. I don't... this is rough. Arcbound Ravager and a Springleaf Drum. This is now going to be an attack for 6, so Chris will fall to 10. Make it 9. He's actually going to turn on the Blinkmoth Nexus in response before damage happens. So Chris down to 9 already here. I think he's going to have to be in the same spot here where he has to Angel's Grace on Christian's turn again, which is not, it's again not where he wants to be. He would win this turn if he hadn't missed that Lotus Bloom trigger. Oh, actually, that's Hercule's Recall. That's fantastic. I thought that was a sleight of hand, but no, that's perfect. This is going to bounce everything of Christian's minus his lands. That's the turn that Chris needed to buy back, so he should win next turn. Also, very importantly, kills Glimmer Void because he has no artifacts in play on the end step. There's the Opal again. We can replay the Vault Scourge for 2 more life. We're at 27. That's fine. Okay, Springleaf Drum comes back down. We can replay the Ravager, or we can replay the Plating, sure. But again, this should be where Chris wins. He has access now to 7 mana. He only needs 6. He'll get to pick up his whole deck. Yeah, Chris drew very well. He got himself out of the situation. He put himself there, to be fair. He missed that Lotus trigger. He should have won last turn, if I'm not mistaken. But fire off the Lotus, and Christian's seen enough. He'll head to a game 3. Okay, so we're flying through this first game. This first match, I should say. So, or first round, whatever you want to call it. 2 very quick wins. Chris as well on a mulligan to 5 there, an actual mulligan to 5. And he was able to handily take care of Christian. He would have won on turn 3 there. It's turn 3, no, turn 4 he would have won on. No, turn 3. Right? Yeah, it would have been turn 3. I think. Turn 3 or 4, one of the two. But for a mulligan to 5, that's perfect. Again, he did miss one trigger there on that Lotus Bloom, which is really important. seeing as how that could have cost him the game. But his deck bailed him out, gave him a copy of Hurkyl's Recall right when he needed it, so was not forced this game to use an Angel's Grace on Christian's turn, which is what we saw game one and is ultimately kind of what lost him the game. Christian was able to put up a fast enough offense that he was able to pressure Chris by turn 3. Okay, so Christian going to have the play here for this final game. Chris going to be on the draw, hoping that Christian doesn't have one of the explosive affinity starts that it is known for. Chris looking at his 7. Christian has kept his 7. Chris has as well. So here we have Inkmoth Nexus, Memnite, Signal Pest. Chris will pick up, if I'm not mistaken, a Spoils of the Vault. Maybe I was wrong, but here's a sleight of hand. We're going to put 1 in our hand, 1 on the bottom. Sure. There's the Lotus Bloom as well on turn 1, so a very strong start here for Chris. Christian going to fire up Inkmoth Nexus. So this is 2 regular damage and 2 poison, so we're going to get our poison counter out here for Chris. He's at 2 infect, 18 life. That's a good sign, I have to feel, for Chris. Christian that early, not playing anything other than, not doing anything other than attacking with a Blinkmoth Nexus or Inkmoth Nexus rather, is pretty big. So, Serum Visions. Christian here has a Spire of Industry. That's going to bring with it a Signal Pest. Turn on Inkmoth again and get in for another 2 poison and another 2 damage. So Chris now at 16 and 4 poison. Lotus down to 1. Chris has in hand Phyrexian Unlife, which is normally great, but Christian has already started the infect count, so it's not going to be as strong as it normally is. And that's potentially the reason Christian started the infect as early as he did, because he's playing around the Phyrexian Unlife this way. We'll see if it really matters or not, but Chris here, thinking on his 3rd turn what he wants to do, I think he realizes that the Phyrexian Unlife is probably not the right way to go about this. The only way he dies to infect next turn is either a Ravager, like land Ravager or land Opal Plating. Here is the Unlife, so he does go for it. This does ensure that he will not die to the Ad Nauseam as well. Well, Christian picked up Ravager, but I think he's short of land. Yeah, turn on Nexus again. Pay a life, Thought Scour, Thought Cast rather. So Christian at 19, he'll draw 2 cards. That doesn't really do anything for him. This will be an attack for 3 infect and 3 regular damage. Or sorry, 3 infect and 5 regular damage rather. Thanks to the pests now pumping each other. Christian leaves back Mehmet. I have no idea why he does that, but so this is an attack for 2 regular and 3 poison. So Chris now at 7 infect, but this I feel will be the turn he's able to go for the win. Sacrifice my Lotus Bloom, make black mana, fire off Ad Nauseam, and I have you dead. Yeah. So